Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Bark and Water session for the second quarter of 2023. I'm very happy to share with you a bit of the company highlights, performance, and the ongoing activities that company is confronting with. I'm very happy to share with you this historical timeline of the company since inception of 2000, and when the COD started in 2003. It had enjoyed an 18-year contractual arrangement, and then this was extended from 2018 to 21. Unfortunately, in 2021, we had to keep our power plant on preservation mode. At the time, the market was oversupplied, and eventually we had to keep the power plant on preservation. We luckily enjoyed a 2-year extension for the water purchase agreement, which we are implementing currently. This year in 2023, it's a bit more exciting that as apart from managing the 2-year extension of water purchase agreement, we are in advanced participation for both power and water 2024 procurement process, which was initiated earlier this year. Key highlights for the first half of 2023 is one of the key things which we'll be very happy to share is that we have completed without any LTI lost time accidents, and effectively the company also achieved continuous 21 years without an LTI. This is a major pride for the company staff in this sector. In addition, we do also have a number of environmental parameters that we have to comply with, whether through seaside, the reject water, or from environmental part from emissions from the gas turbines or power plant. Both, I'm very happy to say that we have not exceeded none of these statutory requirements, and we had 0 environmental exceedance in the period. From a financial point of view, we do have obligations to our lenders, and we have managed to service the debt of around 2.7 million Omani Riyal for the first half of the year. We also managed to settle at the beginning of this year the outstanding tax liabilities of 7 million Omani Riyal for the years 2017 to 2020. I'll take you a bit more on the operational performance of the assets. As I mentioned, we're only operating at this stage 2 RO plants, reverse osmosis plants, RO1 and RO2. Both plants have achieved and maintained very high availability of 99% and above. And we, on average, maintained a load factor of around 58%. This demonstrated the robust predictive and preventive maintenance for both assets, and that's giving out the capacity availability for the dispatch based on needs. So we have been averaging on 58%. As you aware, both RO plants are taking water from the seaside here at Barka area. We are impacted by the seawater conditions, and we have experienced quite abnormal seawater condition in the beginning of the year, which continued as well to third quarter. For the first half of the year, we incurred around 7% of force majeure. Current contracts allows us to claim these due to seawater conditions. I'll hand it over to Mr. Adnan, who will give you a high-level financial performance of the company.
Thank you, Salim, and good afternoon all. With respect to the financial performance of the company, overall performance of the company remains quite better as compared to prior year same period, and we had reported net profit after tax of 0.6 million Omani Riyal as compared to the loss of 0.9 million Omani Riyal in the same period of last year. Our revenue has been declined a little bit. The major reason is in the prior year, we had 40 days of the power contract, which remains till 9 February 2022. So that's why the revenue has been reduced a little. However, our gross profit margin has been increased quite handsomely, and we had reported gross profit of 1.5 million. The major contributor to the increased gross profit is no technical service fee, for which we had obtained approval from the shareholders in the last OGM. So no fee for the current year as compared to the last year, which has contributed in higher gross profit. Overall, our net asset per share book value remains at 0.218 paisa per share as compared to 0.214 as at 31st December. So, and as Salim has already highlighted, we were able to meet our all debt service requirements within 6 period. And overall performance of the company is as expected. Salim sir, next slide, back to you.
Okay. I will take you through the ongoing business risks that we're currently mitigating. Two major ones. One is, as I mentioned earlier, the contractual arrangement so far with the power is on preservation without a contract. Water is only on a limited 2-year extension. So the major risk for the business is facing is actually business continuity, which and the ability to secure additional contracts. For that element, we are fortunate to have those 2 years, which keeping us for until early next year. But I'm very happy to say that the ongoing process by the off-taker, which has been initiated in the beginning of the year for power 2024, water 2024, and which I will explain a bit later, that the market is on a growth profile. The demand is picking up, and we are in a far better position than last year, that with the promises to win either of these contracts. The outcome of both the power and water will only be announced toward the end of this year, by December 2023. As a result of this business continuity risk, we also run into financial risk, which as a consequence, and we do have ongoing debt on will be balanced toward the end of the year. This will put us in a default with the lenders, and also requirement of sales of the assets. God forbid that we are not able to win any of these contracts. We have in place already. We have already in place that position ourselves for power and water, and then also engaged with our lenders in the event of winning one of these, that we will be in a position to refinance our remaining debt in line with the outcome of either power or water or combined. For the outlook, and this is which clearly demonstrate from the market based on the OPWP 7-year statement, that from 2024 onward, the demand is picking up, and then there is one of the major contracts also will be expiring, and that has necessitated the float of the power 2024. This is something which is putting us in a very much more promising domain, realizing that the capacity is required. Our capacity, which has been preserved, is well in line, and we have completed almost the technical evaluation and submission with the off-taker. Apart from the power 2024, we have pursued the spot market, and we have pursued direct sale this year. The spot market was unfortunately not commercially viable, giving still what I call a bit of surplus, and then also the arrangement from the regulator and to limit in the first phase for the direct sale, to limit only to come to industries with captive power. So basically, the spot and direct, even though seemed promising at the beginning of the year, but through detailed engagement with the industries and the spot market, it proved to be more riskier than what we have assumed in the beginning, and we opted not to participate either in spot market, and unfortunately on the direct, the parameters was limited on a pilot scheme only to the captive power. I hope this is something which will be worked out toward the next years, where the pilot scheme will be changed to a new sector law for the direct and spot market. Similarly, for the water, I think it's slightly more visible. The water demand is growing in Oman. There are 3 regions which supplying the main water network. Primarily Muscat region, you have Barka region, and then you have Sohar region, or interlinked. The current gap is actually Muscat, which heavily imports from Barka, and there is a bit of import from Sohar just to offset short needs. We are fulfilling our obligation for the 2-year contract, and also participating in this Barka Water 2024. It's interesting to indicate that the Barka 2024 is limited only to the Barka assets, which is expiring contracts, mainly SMN and our assets. So this is something which is we're looking forward to conclude by end of the year. That's all I had for the presentation. I'm very happy to take any questions or remarks from your side.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Bishan Bhalla from Vision Capital.
Yes, please. Yes, Bishan.
Thank you for the presentation. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the presentation. Just had a few queries.
Yes, please.
We understand, there's a water plant, there's a power plant. The water plant is functional till the end of next year, till March, and then you have 3 more tranches till December, and then you have the power plant, which is currently in limbo because spot market is not feasible. Power 24 is expected by the end of the year. Now, yes. I think the best case scenario where you do obtain, if you could just, your parting statement was that there is for yourselves an SMN. What I didn't catch the last part, your concluding sentence. You had mentioned something about sort of, if you could just repeat that.
Yeah, I'm just putting the slides back for the power outlook. Next year, I mean, if you can follow through these slides, basically next year there's a major contract which is expiring, which is Barka 2, which is called, it's a listed company called SMN. SMN has power as well as water expiring next year. Now, by virtue of demand growth, even though we enjoyed the sector had quite a large surplus of capacity from 2020 till recently, and eventually Power 22 procurement process, which we were participating in, was cancelled because of that. This year, on this cycle of procurement, given that SMN, which is Barka 2, expiring, it has quite a sizable capacity, 700 megawatt expiring next year. So there is an inevitable gap starting next year immediately from April onward. And that's why the process was fast-tracked from off-taker for the Power 2024. So the Power 2024 is a public process for expiring contracts, and there are a number of companies involved which, apart from our facilities, SMN itself is participating. There are other companies who have assets in the market still viable without a contract. So many of those companies are also participating in the Power 2024. The off-taker has limited capacity offtake, so slightly less than what is available, and that's where the procurement process is currently.
All right, no, thank you for the clarification. Now, the question is, so let's say you do win this contract in Power 24, which is expected end of this year. Any cash flows that the company generates, which is in addition to the water plants that you're generating, would effectively go towards, if I look at the restructuring of your loans you were able to secure.
Can you repeat again? I didn't hear your last sentence.
Sure. Let's assume that Barka Water and Power wins a chunk of this Power 24 contract. And now, again, you're using your power plant to generate revenues and cash flows. Most of that money, or rather all of that money, would go towards debt repayment. If I look at your debt repayment agreement, you basically were able to refinance your debt repayment such that it would go on till 31st December 2024. And even then, you would have a balloon payment of 10.4 million Riyal at 31st December 2024. So even in the best case scenario, where the company will, let's say, win a contract and generate some revenues and cash flows, all of that money would still go towards debt repayment, right?
It's very preemptive, because what I mentioned earlier, even though we are running those two in parallel, by the way, the water is completely independent from power, and this is part of the regulatory requirements from the APSR and OPWP. So it's not guaranteed that we win both, or it has to be one or the other. So they are both completely independent. And we are very much involved with our local lenders, local banks. This is which we understand, because there is potential of revamping of the assets to suit the new requirements in terms of availability and the time horizon. And with that, also reconsidering the total business model in terms of reinitiating again a possible dividend stream along with the debt repayment. And so this is a bit preemptive at this stage, but it is in the horizon, and this will be announced only after we conclude the procurement process. But let me assure you that lenders are and shareholders in this aspect are intact and on a dialogue to balance between those components.
Okay, so effectively you're saying there is scope of the company being able to refinance its debt if it were to win Power 24, and then by virtue of sort of refinancing, there would be probably a further preemptive scope of paying dividends purely because now the cash flows are aligned with the lenders. I mean, that's what you're saying theoretically.
Just Bishan, if Salim Sahib, if you allow me, so let me just respond on this. This is a good part you highlighted, Bishan, and of course the refinancing is dependent on contract extension. So based on contract extension, our refinancing will be done. If it is only power, so refinancing will be based on power contract cash flows. And if we will get both contract extension, then refinancing will be based on both contract extension. And of course, the ultimate goal company is looking to seek any opportunity to provide provide the cash flow or to optimize the cash flows to look for any dividend. So this is our priority, and of course we are considering the fact that once we will have the extension in place, then our refinancing will be based on the structure if we can pay some dividends to the shareholders. Of course, the answer of this question, that when we know that how much dividend and how much the expected dividend, it will depends on award of contract. And our refinancing will be, of course, what negotiation we have with the banks. They are willing to accept our request, and they are willing to provide the refinancing based on contract extension. So this is already agreed with the lenders. Once this contract extension will be done, based on that, we will look at how and when we can distribute dividends, and up to the what extent on annual basis.
And if I may ask, this Power 24, what sort of time frame of a renewal are you looking at? I mean, the initial PPA was a 15-year period. When it comes to this Power 24, any indicative time period?
They have
the 6 to 9 years.
The procurement process has allowed a window between 6 to 9 years and anything in between. So this is something which is outlined by the off-taker.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. That would give you a lot of visibility on cash flows. And I understand right now it's only preliminary discussions, and you will make a market announcement as and when we have more data. But when it comes to, we were just trying to understand, we were actually looking at the power sector as a whole, and we're trying to do, some analysis around it. We've had a few calls with the other companies, and theoretically, what we're trying to understand is that you initially have a PPA term based on which you sort of, you invest in the project, you have your returns, you have an investment charge which takes care of your debt repayment, etc. And your sort of variable cost is a pass through. Now, when it comes to a renewal, and you probably would be among the few companies that are in this phase, we look at sort of a EBITDA or operating cash flow that is guaranteed to the company based on its availability, and then you have a debt schedule. So what is left over is a residual EBITDA or a free cash flow, which is in most cases distributed 100% to shareholders. Now, when it comes to sort of a renewal of a PPA, does the off-taker look at the original operating cash flow that was sort of guaranteed during the PPA period, or does it look at this residual period saying, you pay down your debt, or you had 15 years to pay down your debt, and going forward, you don't require the entire investment charge that was paid to you during the first PPA, and now onwards we'll only give you the balance, which is still enough for you to make a return, but it won't be the same operating charge. So conceptually, if you could just shed some light on that, it would be helpful.
No, the off-taker here has a macro level grid balance in terms of generation and consumption. And in that optimization, they have also the bulk supply, which is publicly announced and they are shared. The public in public domain, the average bulk tariffs or reflective tariffs and cost associated with cost reflective tariffs, CRTs. Under that domain, they have already identified, based on their committed power plants, which are already still having a valid PPA, and the additional capacity required, at what level they are expecting their capacity cost, the additional capacity cost for the new procurement process, which is typically known as net capacity cost. So we are all understanding, and under that domain, we have to fulfill the net capacity charges. Otherwise, we are not qualified to fulfill that demand. So this is something which is within the domain of the off-taker. We are not in a position, and we don't understand fully what exactly the ultimate decision from the off-taker point of view. But we are very much aware that where we stand in terms of our plant efficiency, and typically particularly for the power, is the gas consumption, and the gas cost is the bulk cost, is the majority driver. So depending on the plant efficiency, we can foresee how much what they call it net gross profit can be achieved based on our efficiency at the demand period, which is typically peak summer period. So this is something which is already built in, but as I mentioned earlier, this is all driven by the Oman network model from the off-taker.
Okay, understood. The reason I was trying to stress on this is because, is there a scenario where Power 2024 results come, you're awarded a contract, but the terms are let's say not feasible enough to even participate in that from your perspective? Or do you think, irrespective of what the terms are, they would be sufficient for you to take care of your debt repayment, if not a complete restructuring? I'm just trying to sort of understand that from your point of view.
No, that's not on the table, because the off-taker is fully aware the window that where these existing assets or capacity is available. We have been engaging with the same and operating with the same off-taker for the last 21 years. So historical records are available. They have provided a domain of what their expectation is from the band level, from the capital, what they call capital charge or cost charge, and the efficiency side. And there is quite a balance between the two. So we believe we are well positioned, like any other plant, which, given our plant efficiencies and our cost optimization, there is room to participate. And I doubt that we have a problem not to participate in this process.
Interesting.
Unlike the spot market, it does not have a guaranteed or benchmark from the revenue stream. That's why one of the challenges on the spot market, we were not able to participate, because you incur the cost, but you cannot anticipate the revenue. On the Power 2024, it has some parameters which guarantee certain streams of revenues, and then you have an upside if you are more utilized.
Actually, 70% of the capacity is to be procured. So 70% of the capacity will be, if we get awarded, then 70% of the capacity payment will be there.
Okay, so you're guaranteed 70%, and so that compares with an initial 100% availability payment in your initial PPA compared to now at least a minimum 70%. Is that
just would like to highlight.
The 30% will always be available on the spot market. So we always have to offer 100%, 70% guaranteed, as Mr. Hazard indicated, and the 30% will remain in the spot market.
And another thing that just because you are comparing with initial PPA, so just I would like to highlight that the tariff supposed to be not the same, because it's competitive tariff market, because all the competitor operator is putting their tariff and their bidding. So it will depend on revenue stream is not probably be the same what we have in the initial PPA. It may be lesser than that.
I'm aware of that. In fact, yeah, I expect that as well. In fact, just a parting comment from my side, and I'll let the other participants, ask their queries. Is we're quite interested in what the outcome of this Power 24 process is, because it gives us some insights into what the renewal terms would be for the power sector, going forward. Because you have a spot market, and currently that's not feasible because of a scarcity charge, which is let's say, with due respect, negligible for companies like yourself. So then when it comes to a renewal of contracts, that would give us some insights as to what terms we can expect. Because end of the day, as financial investors, we are equally interested in the post PPA period, right? Because you have companies which probably can pay limited or no dividends till their PPA period, and then the true value comes from the post PPA period. So this would be interesting as an exercise for us to sort of see what cash flows or what sort of returns companies can make in the post PPA period. Yeah. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your patient answers, and that's it from my side. Wish you all the best.
May I suggest, I think the off-taker OPWP has just recently published their 7-year statement outlook, which is available on their domain. That will provide you a bit of clarity going forward in terms of their projections and what expected from generation and demand and availability and available. And I think we have come a long way from extreme oversupply in the last 5 years to where we believe now the spot market is turning around, and the reasons from the off-taker to limit the 70% is to maintain certain capacity to basically push the spot market into more dynamic than as it is today.
Yes, sir. We've sort of had a look at the issue 17, which is from 23 to 29, and right now, while the unfortunate reality for companies like yourself is that there's an oversupply, we hope that with time this gap reduces. So yeah, let's hope for the best. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Abbas. I work for Vision Capital. Alaikum salam. Sorry, is there someone else asking a question at the same time?
تفضل اخ محمد.
يا سالم، لما تنزلوا التقارير الماليه تنزلوهم نسختين، نسخه باللغه العربيه ونسخه باللغه الانجليزيه، ولما نحضر طبعا الحلقات النقاشيه يكون في ازدواجيه بين اللغه العربيه واللغه الانجليزيه. صراحه جالسين مثل الاطراش في الزفه، انت بعد كمساهمين نريد نفهم ايش اللي قال. فرجاء يعني لما تعملوا حمله، يعني مثل تقول حلقه نقاشيه، على الاقل تعطونا رؤوس الاقلام باللغه العربيه. انت الحين جالس فوق نصف ساعه ما فاهم شيء مثل الاطراش في الزفه. فرجاء يعني لما تسوي حلقه
ان شاء الله لا بناخذ طلبه في الاعتبار، وان شاء الله في المحضر القادم بنقدم عربي. انا قدمنا في الماضي
لان حضرتنا في الامسن باور ما شاء الله عليهم يتكلموا يعني يتكلم باللغه العربيه بعدين نحول للغه الانجليزيه. الحين انا جالس ما فهم اي حاجه يعني. ولما تنزل التقارير الماليه يكون في نسختين، حل عرب وحل الاجانب.
ما ان شاء الله في بدايه في الحلقات الماضيه بدينا بالعربي بس ما كان في حضور ابدا، واتجهنا بالانجليزي للاسف. ولكن ان شاء الله فالك طيب في المرات القادمه ان شاء الله
اريد ابرز النقاط على اساس نفهم ايش اللي داير يعني.
اذا كملخص يعني.
ايوه اذا ممكن.
ملخص يعني شركه بركه للمياه والطاقه يعني خسرنا في 2021 عقد الكهرباء، وبقينا فقط بعقد مؤقت للمياه لمده سنتين واللي ينتهي بدايه السنه القادمه. موقف الشركه موقف حرج بدون عقد ثابت او مدين مستدام مثلا في الكهرباء والمياه. والحمد لله هذه بدايه السنه في طلب او زياده طلب الحاجه للكهرباء وللمياه، وتم عرض مناقصه جديده من شركه شراء الطاقه والمياه للكهرباء منفصله وللمياه منفصله. في كلا الحالتين احنا مشاركين، ونتامل النتيجه تطلع على اخر السنه. هذا بيوضح صوره الشركه المستقبليه مع ديسمبر 2023.
ايوه في حاله انهم طبعا وسموا جددت العقود مثلا، او انهم مثلا خلاص
تم تجديدها. حاليا عندنا عقد واحد فقط الى شهر 3 2024، وعندنا 3 مراحل تجديديه الى اخر السنه لين ديسمبر 24. يعني في حاله الوضع ان خسرنا كل العقدين وما حصلنا تجديد، يعني بيكون وضعنا مثل وضع صحار الاولى اللي هي شبه افلاس اذا ما حصلنا التجديد. املنا لانه عمليه الطلب في الكهرباء والمياه في البلد والحمد لله بدات في ارتفاع من بدايه السنه. لاحظنا ارتفاع متزامن في الكهرباء وارتفاع في المياه، ولذلك تم تعجيل في عمليه شراء الطاقه وطلب العروض بين الشركات الموجوده حاليا. احنا احدى الشركات عندنا المحطه اللي معنا احنا تعرف بانه مثلا كومباين سايكل اللي تستخدم الطاقه الحراريه المنتجه من الكهرباء واللي استخدام لانتاج البخار، والبخار ينتج كهرباء في مرحله ثانيه. لذلك كانت تقول وضعنا التنافسي وضع جيد مع الشركات الاخرى اللي هي اسمان.
إنزين في حالتنا جددوا لكم العقود، هل إن بتعملوا إعادة جدولة للدين وبعدين توزعوا أرباح للمساهمين أو كيف؟
كذلك هو مثل ما ذكرت في السابق، يعني انه معتمدين على هذه العقود بعد يعني الافصاح من شركه شراء الطاقه. احنا بدينا تواصلنا مع البنوك المحليه، هي البنوك المحليه المقرضه للشركه، وعملنا نوع الجدول المؤقت اللي هو اذا سواء فزنا في الكهرباء او فزنا في الماء او فزنا في الاثنين يتم اعاده جدوله الديون للشركه، ومنها كذلك استرجاع بعض المبالغ وتوزيعها للمساهمين.
انا اطلعت على اللي هو التقرير المالي للشركه وحصلت تقريبا ارباح مرحله قرابه 13 مليون. فهل هذه 13 مليون عباره عن سيوله نقديه او
لا؟ ما سيوله نقديه، هذه ارباح تمكننا في المستقبل بعد دخل المستقبل بالعقود الجديده والاعاده القرض بان نوزع ارباح على اساسها، لكن هي ما نقود ثابته يعني في البنك.
يعني الحين انتم الحين اللي هي المطلوبات المتداوله تقريبا للسنه 14 مليون تقريبا.
حاليا هي 14 مليون.
زين الحين
لكن عندنا التزام في الوقت الحالي اللي يمكننا انه يكون ما نتفادى الافلاس الكامل مثل الصحار، انه العقد المائي يدفع الاثنين، يدفع يعني القروض للمياه والقرض الكهرباء اللي هو ما زال على الشركه.
زين ربحيه الربع الثاني اللي هي 500,000، هل هذا صافي الربح بعد اقتطاع الديون؟
اي بعد دفع مصاريف الديون.
لا هذا صافي الربح
بعد دفع الديون، لكن ما في مجال انه نوزع، فما في مجال انه نوزع لسبب في بعض الضوابط من البنك. الاولويه تدفع للبنك وثم تدفع للارباح، وما ممكن ندفع الارباح الا في حصل ان نحصل عقد جديد.
زين انتم متفائلين يعني على اساس انهم يجددوا لكم العقود يعني؟
لو ممكن تعطيني دقيقه شويه اوصل لك هذه المعلومه هنا في الكهرباء. واضح عندك هذه الصوره، هي صحيح بالانجليزي لكن سهل انك تشوف الصوره الموضحه، الصوره البيانيه. من سنه 24 الى 27، من 24 ل 27 في حاجه ماسه للكهرباء، لانه عندنا محطه سمن هي بركه رقم 2 بينتهي عقدها بدايه السنه القادمه، ولذلك هذا العقد اللي هو التنافس اللي حاصلين فيه واحنا مساهمين. كذلك الحكومه منتجهه في الطاقه المتجدده والطاقه النظيفه اللي يتم بدايه من عبر واحد اللي هي 500 ميجا وات، وفي محطات اخرى اللي هي منح الاولى ومنح الثانيه اللي هي بتبتدي في 2025 و26. هذه المحطات سواء بركه 2 اللي هي بتخسر عقدها الحالي، او الطاقه المتجدده اللي هي محدوده الانتاجيه فقط في النهار، وفي الليل تحتاج طاقه بديله. الاثنين هذه اعطى مجال لنا كشركه بركه المياه والطاقه انه نحصل مجال نعرض الطاقه اللي موجوده معنا، سواء تغطيه الثابت اللي هو بديل عن بركه 2 او تغطيه مسانده الطاقه المتجدده في الليل. يعني وهذا يعطينا امل كبير انه في مجال انه نحصل على عقد في قطاع الكهرباء.
زين في حاله تجديد العقود هذه هل بيكون من ضمن يعني مثل السعر القديم بيكون او انه في تسعيره شويه اقل؟
لا بيكون في تسعيره تنافسيه، لانه ما يخفيك الحال يعني انه شركه شراء الطاقه ملمه كامل بتاريخ الشركه، عقودها ومصاريفها وديونها متبقين، وحطت بعض المعايير والمقاييس اللي هي بين يعني محدوده، اذا زدنا عليها بيكون خارج التنافس في هذه العقود.
زين في حاله تجديد العقود هل بتشترك جميع الطاقه او ان جزء من الطاقه ينعرض في السوق الفوريه؟
هي طالبت 70% من بعض عده شركات المعروضه حاليا او الموجوده بدون عقود، 70% عن طريق عقد ثابت، واللي هو يسمى عقد اشتراكي اللي هي بول بيست، عقد اشتراك ما بين الشركات، بتكون عده يعني عقد لعده شركات مش عقد شركه واحده فقط. يعني هي تحددت انه بتشتري الكهرباء 70% من عده محطات مش من محطه واحده. لكل المحطات اللي متواجده لازم تحط 30% وتكون جاهزيتها مثل ال 70%، 30% تكون موجوده في السوق الفوري. السوق الفوري ما مضمون دخله، لكن هي شركه شراء الطاقه تضمن 70%.
ممتاز. جزاك الله خير، مشكور على التوضيح.
عذرا اخي الكريم، لان نحن بدينا بالعام الماضي بالعربي لكن ما كان حد ابدا يحضر، ويشرفنا وجودك ومشاركتك.
خير. شكرا استاذ صدق.
شكرا. Mr. Abbas, please. I see you are raised your hand.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the presentation. You've been very transparent in terms of what's going on, and I learned a little bit today about the sector. Thanks to you, so appreciate that. Just a quick one on the power procurement process 2024. Now, yes. It seems Barka 2 with 700 megawatts, Rusail with around 180 megawatts. I've heard Mana as well might be a part of this as well, and although it's already owned by the government. It's already owned by the government. Correct. And you have 430 megawatts. Now, so that's the kind of that's the kind of supply that will be on the market that's available, that's out of a PPA. At the same time, what OPWP wants to source 1,000 megawatts. Is that right? Between 6 to 9 years. What's the demand that they want to source? And what is it going to be on a pro rata basis, or is there a chance that someone might lose out and someone might be able to sell 100% under a new sort of revised 6 to 9 year PPA? I just wanted to know what gives us confidence that we'll get some sort of pro rata from them.
The guidelines and procurement process dictates on certain parameters. One of the key parameters is that none of the existing assets without a contract, or even soon not to have a contract, none of these assets can offer more than 70% of their available capacity or contracted capacity. So none of these plants will be having more than 70%. So that's a threshold. Make sure that the ultimate winner, there will be multiple, not a single asset. So there will be no single asset that can win the total demand. Secondly, there is what I call assets efficiency in terms of gas consumption. As I mentioned earlier, the gas cost is the highest among all operating costs. So there is a parameter that we have to fulfill all the assets, and in terms of what's called net capacity charge, in terms of what would it mean to the off-taker. So they want to have a band, and that's also the second. So between companies that has highest efficiency but a bit of debt, and the other assets which has been much longer, smaller, not as efficient, but without a debt. So there is a balance, and this is what I call pool-based contracting, and then the off-taker will balance as a total cost to the buyer between efficiency and debt.
So I was just thinking, in fact, that was going to be my next question, that for companies who have debt outstanding, and even for a single SAOG company like SMN, they have 2 plants. Rusal is completely debt-free with 180, 185 megawatts available. And SMN is, has debt and is already under cash sweep, as we know in the market. Now, when it comes to the offtake, OPWP, are they going to offer a same tariff? Because from their perspective, their power needs to be met, right? So why should they, when the PPA has already expired, compensate any company that already has existing debt? So from their perspective, shouldn't they be offering the lowest tariff that they can get from anyone? And the follow-up to that question is, what happens to come? Yes, sir. Sorry, please. Yes.
No, sorry. I think you are going so much in the future, and this is something which is, I believe, it's not as what it looks that OPWP is trying to look only at the lowest only. They have a threshold, which is they have a great interest to keep these assets in place at a cost which they can afford and not offset the bulk supply tariff. I mean, if you look at their 7-year statement, they have to maintain the bulk supply tariff intact and to mitigate the peak summer periods, and that's how it's all been working so far. There has been a period where oversupply, but then that is now gradually getting reduced from 2 sides. One side is actually a couple of plants that have completely come out of the market, which is public news, Al-Kamil and Suhar 1. Secondly, the demand has started picking up. So we're coming back to normalization, what we earned, what used to have 5 years ago. Now, from capacity, supply, demand, I just mentioned, but then now comes to the costing structure. Costing structure, it is not of interest of OPWP to lose any of these assets permanently, and it has been a big setback. So they are very much aware that you cannot just expect to run a plant at a loss. The spot market was more merchant market, so you cannot commit depending on it. But from procurement process, we have the choice as well, based on these guidelines of the off-taker, we have a choice to optimize our cost, optimize our assets availability and reliability and efficiencies to a certain extent. We have the choice to upgrade if we want to, or we can through capital reinvestment and upgrading these assets to improve the efficiency. So there are multiple parameters that we are working on, and I'm sure all our colleagues in the market doing the same. So eventually, there is quite a reasonable window to believe each company will do its best to position itself where believe that we can win. And secondly, the ultimate goal, what I just mentioned earlier, OPWP interest is not to allocate the whole capacity to one. Otherwise, they would have not put 70%. So 70% is quite a criteria to encourage and actually to ensure that they have multiple winners.
Okay. And from your perspective, just a question in terms of whenever this tender is out and the results are out, are you going to be, would you bid in a way that whatever tariff that you get, whatever bid that you end up making in this extended period, if it just covers your debt costs, but is not able to compensate shareholders, would it be a fair statement that you as a company would not be interested in bidding for it?
It's preemptive, and I would like to decline any of these kind of what you call provoking a future outcome.
You're not comfortable answering that. Yeah, because for all of us, we're just trying to figure out what.
Sorry, it's not about comfortable. We are in a bidding process, so we have to respect that procurement process is run by an off-taker, and we have to abide by their rules and regulations.
Fair enough. I appreciate that, sir. On the water side, you have what sort of comfort do you have in terms of how long will you be able to, at the same reliability supply water, and what sort of EBITDAs can you make from this plant for the next foreseeable future? Is there stability in that, at least on the water side?
The water side, it's only there are two parties involved, which is our assets and SMN in that water 24 process. The procurement, apart from ours, there are a number of new plants are already being constructed, and some of it, like next year, will be like Barka 5 will be in operation. There are other new plants in the near horizon in 2026, like Al-Huthaili 3. Many of these are moving parts. So what's really uncertain today is that how demand will pick up. There has been sort of a stable growth in the water, unlike power. So water demand, because driven by the expansion of the distribution network. This distribution network is still growing outside the Muscat region and to the rest of the Oman area. So this growth will continue for the foreseeable future. We believe that we are well positioned given our location, both of us, I mean, SMN and Barka, because we have the flexibility, not to us, but basically the off-taker has the flexibility either to satisfy the Barka region, satisfy the interior region, which is in Dakhliya, what's called Dakhliya, which is interconnected with Barka, and also we can satisfy Muscat region because of the network interconnectivity. So I believe we have quite a stable water market. The limitation would be whether the network is in line with the capacity required in the places where it is required. And this is outside our domain. We believe we have a good position to continue with water.
Thank you. Very, very clear. Thank you very much, and all the very best to you.
Thank you. No, it's nice, and I really welcome these dynamic questions because it gives a purpose to our presentation.
Yeah, just two bits from my side. The sector, both the water and power side, has been extremely challenged over the last many years, and investors obviously have lost a lot of money. So I think people are just waking up and sort of saying that I can't just look at the next year dividend yield. I need to understand the dynamics of the market, and that's when experts like you, when we rely on your sort of experience, and when you take us through the sector, it's a really learning experience for all of us. Because initially when these companies were IPOing and they came out, all we looked at is the next year dividend yield and the year after that. But there are so many nuances to these sectors that were not very well appreciated by the market in the last many years.
No, I appreciate, and I think from my humble experience, understanding the sector, the vision started in year 2000, where actually to commercialize the sector, basically power and water, there was foreseen merchant market, and that's why it was limited to half of the life cycle of the assets. and that got extended a bit 3 years. Now we are seeing the glimpse of spot market, even though it was introduced a bit, unfortunately, during this surplus period. But going forward, as I mentioned and indicated in my slides, all these are coming together now, and I believe with the introduction of renewables, contrary to what people believe that it is taking up the older inefficient power plants, which is gas-based, there is a good indication that the older plants or the less efficient plants are still required as peaker plants during the night, and that will also continue to supplement the renewable strategy. So all in all, we are in this what I call major transitional of the sector, moving from pure contracted gas-based to more gradual renewable and what we call market-driven procurement. So the combination is quite interesting. Yes, we indeed we were lucky enough from Barca side to survive this transition so far, and we hope we do so toward the end of the year by winning one of these contracts.
Yeah, inshallah. I hope everything works out in your favor. Now that I've watched you, because you're such an experienced man, can I just, because in the presentation, you twice spoke about the efficiency of the plant, right? That's the main determining factor, because gas cost is the highest cost. Once you take away the debt servicing, it's the debt, that gas cost that determines how much real money can you make. So for a plant like yours, Barca 1, which is, I think, commissioned in 2003, and when you compare to, let's say, plants that have been commissioning now, this is just for my knowledge. In terms of efficiency, what sort of improvements have you seen to generate 1 unit of power? How much? To understand, this is to better appreciate.
Yeah, no, just to give you a broad answer, because if you look at historical activities for the company, during the previous contract, which ended in 2021, we have opted, the shareholders, the lenders, and the public which engagement for all the shareholders opted to revamp the assets, particularly the gas turbines. So we did the lifetime extension, heavily invested in those assets to improve efficiency, anticipating this coming period, which is either it is spot market or another procurement process. So we are well positioned based on those previous investments.
Understood. Thank you. All the very best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions؟ أو أي أسئلة من الأخوة الكرام اللي موجودين معنا؟ I think with that, I conclude the discussion, and thank you very much for participation.
Thank you.